Everybody, this is MileSplit Live. I'm Corey, here with Brian Dybel. We also have Travis Miller behind the scenes.
What's up, what's up? Disembodied voice behind the scenes today.
So we're in the thick of state championship season. We're actually 2 weeks off of our last show, so we missed talking about Texas.
Which was huge.
Which was amazing, right?
Wow.
Had some fantastic times, but this past weekend, I mean, what do we got? Colorado,
Iowa,
Utah, Illinois girls.
I want to say North Carolina.
North Carolina girls. Yeah, it's amazing. We got coming up on the schedule, possibly a sub-4 attempt, Prefontaine with Brody Hasty debuting for 2018. We have a story up on milesplit.com, so make sure to check that out. Also check out our new page on Facebook. Like and subscribe to MileSplit Live, so make sure you can get all these live feeds when they happen on the spot.
Know the news as it happens.
Yeah.
I'm on the live social medias. You have comments, you have questions, throw them out. We'll make sure to talk about them on the show.
And then one last thing, this week we got a workout Wednesday coming with what athlete?
This week we have Grace Stark from Waterford, Michigan. Should be a great workout. Everybody knows she ran really, really fast. It was down to the wire in the 60-meter hurdles at New Balance Nationals indoor. You know, one of the top athletes all time in the 60-meter indoor hurdles. She hasn't quite made her mark as well yet outdoors, but she's working at it. You know, Michigan just had really bad weather for the longest time, so hopefully we'll see some fast marks out of her, and especially into the postseason, which she does hope to go to.
All right. So. Well, let's look forward to that, obviously, but let's go to Colorado, which had a fantastic display of action there. Bobby Reyes, our editor in Colorado, had really great coverage of the meet. You have photos, you have interviews, you have stories. You're going to find all of that on MileSplit Colorado. But let's start with maybe the biggest performances from that meet. What do you think went down that you really liked?
I guess we should stick with the hurdles and go with Emily Sloan running 40.60, you know, state record. That's pretty impressive.
You know what else was impressive? She did that 3 minutes after Anna Hall had set the state record in 300-meter hurdles. So Anna Hall won her race. Emily Sloan comes back 3 minutes later and sets the state record.
That's even more impressive. And you know, those two girls trained together during the off season, not during the school year. They trained with Coach Chuck Begay, you know, in the off season during indoor and outdoor, you know, into AAU Junior Olympics and things like that. So no surprise that both of them are two of the top hurdlers, not only in the country or in the state of California, but also in the country.
So you're going with Emily Sloan with your best performance from Colorado.
Emily Sloan was great. You know, Ariana Minor, obviously, I have to mention as well. You know, I think you got some good facts about her and the races that she had.
I got good facts?
Yeah, you always got good facts, man. Always got the good facts.
Well, she won the 100 and the 200, but surprise, surprise, she did not win the 400 after setting a state record, going an all-time, big time, 51.92 in the prelims. Comes back and she's human, runs 53 seconds to finish second there. I think the more interesting thing, though, is the girl who beat her, Lily Williams from Grandview, is just a sophomore. And Lily Williams, before state championships, her best was like 55 seconds.
Wow.
So she puts down a nearly 2-second personal best with Ari Minor pushing her. That just tells you
so impressive.
That's just the beauty of competition, how it can pull you along, possibly to a career best. So all the credit goes to Lily Williams on that.
Yeah, and especially like if she's been running all season with nobody, and then you know Ari, obviously she's been waiting for this huge matchup because we know you know she's one of the top 400-meter runners in the country, and to get in with her and to run that kind of time, that's so impressive.
And I don't think Aria can leave the meet and go home disappointed because she gets the state records in the 200 and the 400, and she's probably going to go on to some postseason meets and do some big things there as well.
And to run finals and prelims back to back like that, it's eventually at some point you will get very tired. Like obviously, if, like you said, she's only human.
Yeah. Well, Anna Hall was one of the girls from Colorado that actually won 3 events. One of the only three-peat winners here at Colorado. She won the 100s, the 300s, and the long jump. Surprisingly, she did not compete in the high jump, which she's been historically known to be very good at. So she tried 3 of those events, won 3 events at Colorado. And then Max Manson, you know, the pole vaulter from Colorado, he set a 32-year-old record. He broke it, formerly held by his dad, and he vaulted 17.3.25. So that's phenomenal out of Max Manson. Previous to the championships this weekend, Bobby Reyes had a great story on Max and his sister. So there's a big family pedigree, you know, going into track and field, and he really performed up to standards in Colorado. So big ups to them. And then we also can't forget about Michael Mooney. Earlier in the year, finished second
Crazy in
at
that
Arcadia,
race, yeah.
right? And a lot of guys can kind of taper off maybe with a lot of that, the early season work,
Yeah.
but he didn't. He wins the 1600 and the 3200 in good times and really finishes out his season.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have anything else to add?
It's overall an impressive weekend from Colorado. And you think about that, there are, I always think about it, and I know I probably put more weight into it than I should, but just the fact that their altitude and running, especially for the distance races, it makes it like just that much harder to run some of those fast times.
For sure.
So pretty awesome and impressive.
If you have any comments, make sure to comment on Facebook or tweet at us. We'll make sure to answer your questions if you have anything going on.
Let's give a quick shout out right now. We have Rodney Alex in the comment section
Uh-oh.
giving a shout out to the Fort Bend Marshall Buffs. They won a
Marshall.
5A state title this year in Texas, and they say just with one senior running. So
Yeah.
shout out to the Buffs and Rodney Alex.
Yeah, talking about them a little bit, I think I looked up one of Will's breakdowns. Will Grundy, our Texas MileSplit master, I think did a great job continuing to break down the state meet after the fact. Like throughout all of last week, there was several good articles about some things that might have been overlooked and missed. And one of the articles which I got really into was the Fort Bend Marshall Buffaloes. They finished terrible. I'm sorry. The year before this year they ran very, very well. I mean, because Travis knows they've been at the top of the state. Everybody talks about them.
We're talking about 4x4, right?
No, we're talking about just the team in general. State title, team in general.
Okay.
They had one of the top point totals.
They set the UAL state record for team
most
score.
team score points ever in UIL history. And then I think it was a year or two after that they didn't even come close to podiuming. And this year to come back, and I think last year he said it was a lot of stick handoff troubles because in Texas it's the big thing to get those relay handoffs and to get them done right. So Fort Bend came back strong this year, proved that they are a powerhouse and that those relays, they had maybe a down year that year, but this year I think that's really, really something key to look out for the future years, especially if they only had one senior on that squad.
Yeah, and 6 classifications. There is a lot happening in Texas over 2 days in that state championship. You can't really boil that down to
many things going on.
one or two stories. You have to go on and on and on. So Will did a great job on Texas MileSplit, so check it out. Also, recently a lot of Texans featured at the Adidas Boost Games, Dream 100 and Dream Mile, kind of to change topics a little bit. But the 100, Keyshawn Carter, I think from the Woodlands, right?
Yep, from the Woodlands. Yeah.
Ends up battling Austin Kratz.
Yeah, it was amazing. Caught the race on Sunday, and Keyshawn Carter had quite the run there. He ran. I always want to get his time mixed up.
10:31.
10:31. Yeah, because he ran 10:34. I think previous to that, but he ran 10:31 this weekend, but Austin was just about to get him. Like if that race was 110 meters, let's say, I think Austin would have had him. But Keyshawn ran a great race, great out of the blocks, through his drive phase and to the line. Austin again, it was close. He ran really solid.
That's one of those years too that Kalen Barnes, didn't go to the Boost Games. He had a tremendous state championship effort.
Really good.
10.02 or 10.04. Correct me if I'm wrong. 10.04 all conditions. Right, he won Boost last year. Said he finished up his season after states, and he's going on to Baylor. So he went to Boost last year, and on the same outside lane where Austin Kratz was, won against Schwartz. So Kratz had to enter that race thinking like there was an opportunity for me to win, even though I'm in a less than ideal position. But it's just interesting to see how a lot of these kids get out of the blocks and how much that buoys them.
Huge impact. Yeah.
So let's keep a track at home. That's back-to-back wins for Texas at the Adidas Boost.
Yeah,
this is true. This is true.
Pretty big there.
Yeah. And then in the girls 100, Brianna Williams from Northeast in Florida won a big championship. No one really, thought she would lose.
That one.
Yeah, but she goes in there.
She's definitely the heavy favorite.
Win. What do you think about Caitlin Collier's big win in the mile? I think she was 4:38, sets a Florida, at least a dream mile record there. But 4:38 is a U.S. #1. That's an amazing performance.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. But I think when you see that her 800 meter speed and know that that she's run cross country in the past, run the 32 as well, that there's no denying that obviously it's going to transfer over very well into this mile. Even earlier in the year 1600s. So to see Caitlin run that time didn't surprise me, as I should say. After looking again, I think she's 2:02 in the 800.
Yes.
So to see that and it to transfer to this mile it makes sense. It adds up. Like that's where she should be.
We literally just made a joke about Texas speed, but like Florida distance isn't really like,
Florida
they don't
distance
hang their hat on distance, but we
crushing it this year though.
Michael Phillips won the Dream Mile.
Yeah,
Caitlin Collier won the
Florida
Dream Mile.
take the
in
double
girls.
win there, so that's big for Florida.
Yeah, that was a big win for Michael
especially
Phillips.
over London Culbreth, who was a big name last year. This year, still trying to run strong.
I think she ran under her 450 record though, so she ran really
so
well.
still a really good race.
Against Collier at the race.
Let's go. Top 10 all time for Collier.
Yeah.
For Texas?
No,
or just
for,
all time?
For Caitlin
All
Collier
time,
was a
all
top all-time mark. Yeah, number 8,
Yeah.
correct? It was
Yeah.
something like number 8 all-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for Caitlin, that's just
And
very
this
impressive.
is a U20 World Qualifier year. We can probably expect Caitlin Collier to possibly compete at the USA Junior Championships in June in Indiana. She qualified for Pan Am last year. I think Caitlin Collier is one of those girls that can continue to drop time. Maybe get in that Sammy Watson window in the 800. I don't know.
Ooh, you're thinking like two flat, two.
Maybe 2 flat 201.
Yeah. I mean, Mary
it'll be
Kane.
interesting.
I did the article last week. Mary Kane's the only one high school girl that I could see, and on the all-time list on Track and Field News that has run sub 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So that would be really saying something if Caitlin was able to get down to that. I think that's a big mark and amount of time to drop it.
Only a few weeks left in your high school career
Yeah.
ever, so leave it all out there. You're going to Stanford, you're going to have a good career, but leave it all out there in high school, and you'll be remembered. Let's switch beats and go back to
Switch what?
Beaks.
Beats.
Like a bird.
I was going to do an Office reference. Battlestar Galactica,
Oh, I know.
Bears.
Bears,
Yeah.
Beats.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah,
Good one.
but let's go back to state championships in Iowa. Fantastic. Drake University, over 10,000 fans, filled up that stadium, and it was great to see. Probably the biggest performance out of all of the championships was the individual performance by Sydney Milani of Southeast Polk. She won 4 individual titles in the 1, the 2, the 400, and the 800. Set all-time best marks in the 1, the 2, and the 4. So you look at someone who wins 4 individual events. It's a rare commodity.
As soon as I saw that and I read that, I think in my mind what goes through is most kids hope to win 4 titles at like their league or their district championships.
Right.
Very few kids can say like I'm going to go in and win clean house and win 4 state titles. And not to bash Iowa, it is Iowa, but the times aren't as fast as let's say a Texas, but that's still even in any state at a state meet. That's really solid to do.
I don't know,
win
Brian. She went
4 state titles.
11.49 in the 100.
Okay.
She went sub 24, I believe, in the 200. 52 point in the 400 and 210 in the 800. Those are all national.
Those are very, very good times. Yeah.
So
top times.
I mean, an athlete is an athlete.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Like when you get in a state meet, but when you look at a state like Texas, where I don't think 210 would have won those some of the bigger schools classifications. Like, but those are amazing times. Like not to oranges to apples.
Yeah.
She ran amazing, very solid performances. Winning again 4 state titles is just like every kid. Like, that's a dream come true. I feel like
hasn't been done at Iowa before for a girl. And one of the notable things that she did before going into the state championships was write down a little goal of hers in the 100. I think she scribbled down 11.49.
And she got it.
Ended up getting that. So that's tremendous out of her. We also had some really great outings from athletes like Nick Phelps, the thrower from Kingsley Pearson. He won the discus and the shot put. Gable Saperda, who transferred this year to Central Lions. He won the 16 and the 3200. Anna Hostetler won 2 titles as well. You have a hurdler that I think you want to talk about.
Yeah, Tyson Vanderlinden. He dropped the top junior class boys 400 meter hurdle time, 53:07. Took the 1A boys state championship. Fastest junior boy, fastest non-senior boy in the country right now in the 400 hurdles. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Iowa's got some legit athletes, great performances at the state championships. Yeah. Switching to Utah, right? They compete at Provo at 4,500 feet elevation. We talked about elevation earlier at Colorado. This is no joke. 4,500 is legitimately
it's very
fierce. Ryan Raff in particular, we've talked about him all year in cross country and indoor, and now here he won the 3,200 at states, and I believe his time converts down to an 8:49 when you consider the altitude. So really great performance out of him. But we just mentioned Sydney from Iowa. We can't forget about Megan Hunter, who did the same exact thing, 100, 200, 400, 800, and did it just as impressively.
I guess Sydney kind of flew under the radar, is where Megan isn't as much of a surprise to me.
No.
Like Megan is, we've heard of her for the past couple of years now. I think coming up in the 400 and the 800 especially, but still to win 4 state titles is mind blowing.
Yeah, her 800, surprisingly enough, was probably her best performance. The 100 she went a little over 12, the 200 she went over 24, 400 53 seconds, something like that. 800 she goes 209. She ran faster than her sister Kate ever did in high school. Kate is now at BYU. Kate's a legit freshman in a collegiate program, and Megan just a junior, now beating her sis. And everybody thinks Megan's like a sprinter, a quarter lapper,
yeah, quarter mile.
Yeah,
most people would consider.
so to see that out of her is really impressive.
We have a question here coming in from the social medias from Kevin Sully. Do you think that Utah meet win performances are more impressive, or the Iowa sweep?
I would say the Iowa sweep is more impressive based on what Sydney was able to do. Every single one of her performances is national caliber. Megan, not so much in the 1 and the 2. The 4 and the 8 were legit. But, if Sydney's doing it solo for the most part in Iowa, I almost give that a little bit more credit than if, somebody has competition, because it's hard to pull yourself through to a national level time.
I was going to say the opposite, but I think you kind of persuaded me, because, well, the only reason I think the opposite is just because I think that Utah, again, is a little more traditionally, historically, a deeper track state, especially in some of the distance races like the 800. So I think, when you're beating people that are closer to you in an event, it is tougher. But when the times are both very close to national caliber and you're running by yourself, I think that's a lot more challenging than running a big group of people and taking them, because everybody's kind of pushing to the same time.
We just mentioned Lily Williams in Colorado. Yeah. She was pulled along by Aria Minor. Do you think she gets there if Aria's not in that championship final?
Probably not. We haven't seen that
I don't think so.
All year, so.
But Aria can solo that if she wanted to. So Megan, great performance there. Thank you for the question, Kevin Sully. Yeah. Wonderful question. Another big outing. Grant Gardner beat Aiden Troutner in the 1600. Which is pretty impressive. Troutner got him back in the 32, but Grant, Aiden, two of the best distance runners in Utah. What are your thoughts on those two, just generally speaking?
Just from watching cross country, I want to say, obviously Aiden.
Gatorade National Runner of the Year in cross country.
Gatorade National Runner of the Year in cross country. I think, from just what I know from that he's a very strong distance runner, and maybe not as much on the track is where I think Grant had historically better times on the track.
Got some speed.
Don't quote me. I'd have to look into dig into the numbers a little bit. But I think that Grant does have slightly faster track times than what.
I definitely can see that.
So.
One other thing, Zach Winter went a U.S. #1 time in the 800 in Class 6A, 150 low. So he's now U.S. #2, just behind Josh Hoey. So that's interesting out of Zach. Congrats to him. Moving on to other meets, Eddie Games in New York.
Yeah, the Eddie Games in New York. Brooke Ruber from Tully, representing where around where Travis is from.
CNY, let's go.
US #2 in the 1500 meter, 4:28.87.
Yeah.
She's just one of those young
drenched rain.
Yeah, young up and coming distance runners who's running very well. And then obviously Kelsey Camille from Saratoga, US #1 in the 3000, 9:29.28. Those are two of the big performances that stuck out to me.
Yeah. Kelsey's a little behind where she was last year. Is that concerning to you at all?
No, I don't think so. I think Kelsey's still one of the top distance girls in the country, and I think that you go through those years and you have some of those races. So not too concerning. I think we'll see once championship season comes, what she's able to do and how she's able to put forth, what kind of effort she's able to put out there, especially at like a state meet and things like that, where her biggest meets are yet to come. And I know, just knowing and being from New York, they haven't quite hit some of their peak times like other states have, like Texas or Florida is where they've already had their state meets. It's gone in the past, where Kelsey's still kind of working to get to the state meet, which is like a couple weeks away, I think. Yeah,
it's not the first week of June, right? It's the second week of June in New York for the state championship meet.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, so they got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Moving forward to other things, possibly discus. I don't know if you've looked at this much, but the U.S. #1 discus thrower right now, Sam Welsh from Concord Academy, he just landed another U.S. #1 throw of 212 flat, surpassing Patrick Larison of Oklahoma, who had just surpassed him. Over the last 4 weeks, it seems these two have been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's going to be interesting to see if any of these guys, Larison just finished his state championship season, but I think he might have 1 or 2 meets left at New Balance Outdoors or maybe USA's to really put out a big one. Do you think any of these guys have the potential to go in the 220s or the 230s like last year? We had a special year in the discus last year with Turner Washington and a lot of different guys from California. Do you think, right now as it stands, they can get to that 220 mark or 230s?
It's tough. I've been saying it. I think every time we sit down to look at the rankings, that this year is a bit of a weaker year in the throws in general. And maybe it's just I have a skewed perception from last year and what guys like Gabe Oladipo and Adrian Perry and Turner Washington in the discus, like just some of those guys, and obviously Jordan Geist, thank you. Yeah. It's like what those guys were able to do last year. It was, I guess, maybe just kind of like, shooting for the stars. Like is where I think these guys are kind of shooting for the moon, and
hoping
so it's hoping to get to the stars.
You recently though went to Illinois and you did a workout with John Meyer, who's one of the top throwers in Illinois. What kind of insight could you bring back from there that he kind of lent to you?
And after the workout came out last Wednesday, and a lot of what he was doing was kind of just working that technique. I kind of went there pretty early in the season, but they were doing some heavy lifting. I think a lot of obviously throws is you had to be strong, but you also have to focus on that technique, and that's one of the things too, is like he mentioned, and his coach both reiterated, you have to have a great balance of the two. You can't have super strength without having good technique, because you can't get around that circle and get the shot put out or get the discus out the way you need to. It doesn't matter how strong you are, like as long you have to have solid technique. So a lot of what they did was work that technique in the shot put. He focused mostly on shot put, and then kind of switched over to the discus, where he only worked a little bit less. Normally, they don't do a full day of lifting, discus, and shot. They do one or the other in the ring, and then they do some lifting. But the technique has to come, but also you have to have the strength. And I think technique is a big thing though, to get out that far. And I think a lot of these guys developed the strength as they went. We saw Adrian Pippery, he kind of was smaller and he kind of bulked up as the years went on. I watched him kind of become a better thrower, but I'm sure a lot of his technique was also getting stronger and better.
And maybe these guys aren't along the lines of those guys because they haven't had as much time to build up. Even
one big thing that John Meyer said that I noticed, he's like, I didn't really start taking the throws too serious until my junior year. And so I feel like Adrian Pippery, we've seen him around Jordan Geist, we'd seen him around for a long time. They knew what they were doing. They were very serious from freshman year on. So some of these guys, I don't want to speak to all of their seriousness into it and how serious they are.
Sam
but like to have the 4 years of focusing on it and honing your skills and weight training and focusing on the technique, I think is super important.
Well, it is interesting to note though that Sam really did the same thing. He only really started throwing in the summer, it seems like, and now he's one of the nation's top discus throwers with a little bit of grunt and a little bit of technique.
I'm sure technique. I'm sure he probably worked technique a lot.
That's interesting to see maybe where he goes from here, because he has so little. Think about what he can gain in terms of knowledge and
I think the future is bright, especially when you see a guy make that big of an improvement from year to year. That's huge.
All right, we have a few more state championships coming up on this weekend.
Before we move on, we have one comment coming in from Twitter about this previous weekend from @Parker Navarro. I'm so cool. She says, "You're really gonna disrespect my boy Josh Hoey and not talk about his 148?"
Yeah, no, I'm not, because that's the third straight time he ran 148. I mean,
yeah, I'm sorry.
I had this conversation with Dan Beck over text today, and it's one of those things. So 148 is U.S. #1. It's unbelievably fast, and it's great. But once you hit that, you kind of have to make a step up or an improvement. Otherwise, what else am I going to say about it? You ran it before, You prove us something more or tell us where you're going. I think Josh Hoey definitely has the capability to go under 148. He did it in the indoor season. I think he's chomping at the bit to get there, to go for that 146 national record by Michael Granville. But I think he needs the perfect field to get him there, right? And we don't know where that's going to be. Right now, I mean, his 148 most recently came at a pro field at Adidas, correct? So he was pulled along. He was pulled along, but I just think he needs a little bit more time, and I think he gets there But until that happens, I think it's status quo, and we don't really.
Yeah, I'm waiting for him
Move
to take
the
the next big
needle.
mark too. Sorry, yeah.
So
That's like the multiple times indoors. It's like if somebody runs like 4:00, 4:00, 4:00. I think I want to say like Sam Worley did that a couple times.
Alex
and, like,
Rogers is the
Alex
king
Rogers,
of
the king of the four flats.
Yeah.
Wow, Cooper Tier, ran a couple 4:00s, 4:00s. Like, okay,
yeah.
it's huge, and
Yeah.
you did it. It's like, when are you gonna get under 4? Like, when are you gonna
Yeah.
go to the next thing? It's like you gotta.
I think
you can do it. Like, this is a challenge, I think, right here.
One of the better questions is why no one else has run under 150 this year.
Yeah.
Josh is the only one to go under, only athlete, high school athlete to go under 150. Everyone else is stuck at 150.
Corey, are you saying
151.
that Brandon Miller is slacking? Is that what you're saying?
Well, Brandon Miller just started his
He's in a
season
unique
like
situation,
4
too.
weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
He just ran 151 high, I think, and he runs until July, whereas
Yeah.
a lot of these guys finish off in June.
Yeah.
May,
right?
June. Yeah.
Hopefully
So-
Brandon will run through August and we'll see him at the AAU Junior Olympics again.
Yeah, for sure. Stay tuned for all of that. Obviously, we will have that on FloTrack and MileSplit. This weekend, coverage in Pennsylvania State Championships, Illinois boys, Maryland, also live on MileSplit. We have Tennessee and we have North Carolina. All that coverage will be on our state sites and also on milesplit.com, The Scoop, and wherever else. So, do you have anything else you want to add, Brian?
Oh, man, I'm good. I think Travis, you got it.
NCAA prelims, East and West,
Yeah.
live on FloTrack starting on Thursday. That's huge.
Stay
I know
tuned.
I'm going to be dialed in. There's so much going on at NCAA level right now. It's a must-watch event.
Yeah, for sure. Stay tuned on all that. MileSplit FloTrack. We'll see you later. Take care.